Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
Hey, before we get started, this is Jeff along with Eric. We finished the show, and then about 90 seconds later, UCF finished off a 10-2 victory in softball over Fresno State. Eric Lopez,
Angelina DeVoe shut him down 1-2-3. She knew we were under the buzzer.
Yeah, I know. Well, we needed to. We tried. You'll hear at the end of the show. We tried to stall as much as we could.
I threw out the option of doing play-by-play, but Jeff vetoed it. So,
well, as they say, descriptions and accounts of this game are the exclusive property of whatever it is. That's
the Mountain West Television Network.
Mountain West Television Network. So UCF gets the victory over Fresno State 10-2 in softball, which you hear us talk about throughout the show. Just wanted to put that out there so that you guys knew as we finish off this cold open. All right, let's get to the show.
This is the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Jeff Sharon and Eric Lopez.
Welcome to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast on this busy March Wednesday night. We're recording this late Wednesday night, March 9th. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez with you, and the student of the game, Kyle Nash, joining us here for the first segment. We got a lot to talk about. It's going to be all basketball this segment. If you're listening to this on Thursday, we got a doubleheader tonight, folks. It's crazy. We got the first round men's basketball game against USF. It's a doubleheader of War on I-4. Men in the first round of the AAC men's tournament at 7, followed by the women facing off against each other for the conference championship, for the women's conference championship. Both those games on ESPNU. A little bit later, Kyle Nash earlier talked to Jordan Johnson, former UCF center, who's taken a graduate assistant job at the University of Cincinnati. We will rightfully roast him for that. And a little bit later on, Bryson Turner joins us to talk about some baseball, and Eric's going to talk about some softball. I
know, Jeffrey, we are at the peak of Equinox. There's a lot. As we're recording, there's live West Coast UCF softball that I'm following. There was baseball at night. I mean, this is it's chaotic.
I know baseball just beat FAMU 18-4. Softball, they're in the middle of that West Coast trip. They beat Pacific yesterday, run-rolled them, right?
Yep,
so we'll
8-0.
talk a little bit more about that. And right now, we're recording this about 10 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday. What's the score right now, Eric?
As we record this, it's 4-1 UCF, top of the third. They're at Fresno State against the Bulldogs there. Second game of a long West Coast trip, which we'll get into later in the show, hopefully with a final score.
Yeah. So, all right. Let's get the student of the game up in here, Kyle Nash. All right, Kyle. So we're going to talk hoops this segment, and we got to start with the women, of course, who, obviously the one seed in the conference tournament and have proven themselves to be more than worthy of that to this point, as they have ended these seasons respectively of both Tulsa on yesterday afternoon to start the tournament, and then SMU today to advance to the conference championship game in Dickies Arena in Fort Worth, which will be approximately 9 p.m. Thursday, March the 10th against USF. But let's talk about this semifinal game that UCF just crumpled SMU into a tiny little ball and threw them into the garbage. 61-28 was the final. The 28 points allowed is a season low for the nation's number one scoring defense. And I joked late in the fourth quarter when it was 57-25. I said UCF is currently on a 57-25 run. They got off to a great start and did not stop. 4 players in double figures. Brittany Smith led everybody with 13 off the bench, 11 for Diamond Battles on 4-13, 10 each for Shania Mertens and Masni Kava. But really, it was just holding SMU to – they held them to 3 field goals or less made in 3 of the 4 quarters. I mean, this was – we've seen great defense from this team. This performance takes the cake.
No, absolutely. And listen, Jeff, let's do it this way. You make the joke about runs. Listen, the first quarter was a 15-3 run. Let me be clear about that. UCF has had as many rebounds in that first quarter and that number matched SMU's shooting percentage of 7% in the first quarter. Yeah, listen, man, and just you could say what you will. I mean, the rebounding was 34-34 by the end of the game, but early on, technically speaking, SMU was out rebounding UCF, but again, not really shooting the ball great. The one quarter they did get double digits, of course, was the second, and UCF still technically only lost that quarter by a single point. Something else is interesting too. They had 10 steals and 6 rejections on the night. Jeff, the only other time I've seen ladies get that many rejections was me asking for a prom date in high school. Okay. That is insane.
It is way too late at night for me to be dealing with these dad jokes, man.
Hey, you started it? You started it in the message room?
Yeah.
So it has spilled out into
I'll take responsibility for it only up to a point. So So their reward is a third matchup with USF, who UCF swept in the regular season. South Florida. By the way, you want to talk about rebounding? I did want to at least pour one out for the women's team for UCF in the game against Tulsa, in a game that was a little tighter than I think a lot of us were thinking, especially in the early going. Tulsa really kind of stuck with UCF through the first half, but the Knights out rebounded Tulsa 50-20 in their first round game, or quarterfinal game, I should say, including 25-5 on the offensive glass, which they did it rebounding. They did it by stopping the shooting. I mean, what else can you do? But now here comes USF, who, it's another war on I-4. And throughout the records when these two teams play, I know that's a cliche, but it's true. Obviously, UCF got the sweep this season with a win at home by 16 points back in January, and then they won. And then UCF won. Tampa held them to 33 points in Tampa in a 22 or 21 point win the day before Valentine's Day. But Jose Fernandez is going to have them ready. I mean, they have to be, and we know that they're going to be able to step this thing up. What are we thinking this? How is this game going to turn out for tomorrow, based on what we've seen?
I mean, so here's what it is. I think what it's going to come down. First of all, let me tell you this: Coach Abe would match you word for word that Coach Jose is going to be ready to go. I mean, the respect that these two coaches have for one another has been apparent from moment one this season, and probably goes well beyond that. Certainly, I'll put it this way. I feel like if certain things that haven't gone as well in the two games, dominant wins as they were, gentlemen, USF is uniquely poised to create all of the air quotes worst case scenarios for UCF. Now, granted, the one thing they haven't created was forcing a slow start for UCF to this point, right? Both of the games in the sweep, we've lamented the slow start of the Knights women's basketball team throughout the season. It's happened entirely too much. Coach Abe could even tell you the same. However, in both these games, much like in SMU today, came right out the gate, guns blazing on offense. It was a good time all the way around. Here's what I'm getting at. You mentioned, Jeff, that Tulsa competing with UCF early wasn't really competition so much as they managed to come out just blasting it, chucking it from the cheap seats. All right.
Their whole MO that game is just we're gonna shoot threes and hope we make enough of them.
and deny the post, right? They were hoping to outscore. And really, when you look at any game that UCF has struggled in and or lost and involves I shouldn't say an excellent necessarily, but at least a more than competent, above average hitting of the 3-point shot. I should probably put that stat together, what the 3-point percentage was in their 3 losses so far this season. That'll sound all spiffy next podcast. But if the different, what was it that you kept hearing in the post-game press conference from Brittany Smith, Master Kamba, and Coach Abe after the Tulsa game? Something, they were undersized. Okay. USF does not have that problem. There's a star that Eric Lopez made me aware of. Manunga is her name, right, Eric?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they have that size to at least do something. I'm not here to say cancel it out, but certainly not be just manhandled in the low press. Listen, when you have a conference freshman player of the year, Tamira Poindexter, in there trying to defend the 6th player of the year in the conference, Brittany Smith, and her compatriots Destiny Thomas and Masni Kaba, good things are not going to happen. However, Manunga can hang there and has done that in moments in these 2 games, right? What it's come down to is USF is trying to play what Coach Abe calls pretty ball, when it's not in the post to Manunga, and they don't hit it enough. If you look at the last year's final, the big stat where UCF falls short is stopping that 3, and they hit it that game, guys. I really think it came down to that when I look at the stat sheet. Granted, I didn't see the game personally, as I was not covering the team yet, but being a data guy for a living that I am, I'm putting it together that, sometimes when you fire it from beyond the arc, you win, especially when it's a team that I shouldn't say capitulate, but respect that the post play is going to crush you to a certain extent.
Eric, USF is going to be playing without Maria Alvarez, who got hurt right before the tournament. They've kind of struggled quite a bit here, I think, in those first 2 games for them, right? They beat Memphis by 10. Memphis kind of hung around them for a little while. Memphis is a pretty well-sized team, though, and Houston gave them a little bit of trouble earlier today. Where do you think from tomorrow in terms of this game? Is there reason to be confident, or should we fear overconfidence?
I don't know if I think Kyle's nailed this game 100%. This is a game where South Florida's going to be ready for this game. They've circled this game since they got embarrassed at home. They're not as dynamic, as skilled as past USF teams. They're not as great of a 3-point shooting team. That being said, Sydney Harvey, who has struggled, lit up UCF in the championship game last year. And Kyle, you mentioned Bethy Manunga. She dominated Houston, 18 rebounds in the ball game. That's the difference maker, because what USF does is they're going to shoot a ton of threes, just like Tulsa. But the difference is they can get 2nd and 3rd opportunities, and that's going to be decided in the boards. UCF has been beating South Florida this year because they've taken USF's 3-point shot away and held them to 1 shot for the most part.
That's a good point. That's the best point.
Extra possessions. To beat UCF, you need extra possessions. And USF, when they've been successful against UCF in the past, has gotten extra possessions and been able to score. Now, they're going to have to shut down Sydney Harvey, Elisa Pinzon, Snink. They're going to all shoot. They're all going to shoot. But the boards will decide this as much on both sides, because South Florida can defend too. And that will be the challenge for UCF, because here's the question we still have about this team. We talk about the balanced scoring and all that. It's easy to score when you're playing from ahead. But what happens if this team falls behind? Do they start pressing? You look at last year's championship game. They had a drought in the second quarter. They dug themselves a hole. They made a run in the second half, but it was too late. I think, to me, offensively, they've got to be efficient. It'll be interesting to see what Jose Fernandez brings to the table. He's been playing off the guards. He's been daring them to beat him from the perimeter. Does he stick to that game plan? I think he will. Or does he try to mix it up? I'm really interested in this chess match. I actually think South Florida has the edge here because they've been beaten twice, and it's hard to beat a team 3 times. But the one thing I will say that gives me confidence, this UCF team is, and Kyle, you mentioned this in the postgame after the win here against SMU. This team ain't just here to play for the championship game. This has been a year. This has been 365 days in the coming. They've been circling this date for a year.
Say more than that too. I would think. Ever since UConn left the league.
Coach Abe would agree with you. I heard him made that statement.
A couple of things about the rebounding numbers. I think it's interesting when you look at these two teams as how they played this year. USF is third in the conference in rebounds per game. UCF is eighth. But these are the top two teams in the conference in terms of rebounds allowed, rebounds given up. UCF gives up the fewest rebounds of any team in the American, 32 a game. USF right behind him at 33. Rebounding margin, South Florida this season, plus 7.6, best in the conference. UCF third, plus 5.7. So that, like you were saying, Eric, that's where this game is going to be decided.
And if you look at Tampa, you had Smith, Kaba, and Kyle, your girl, Destiny Thomas, take care of Munaga, and they took care of the boards. That's going to be the key. This is going to be a very intense, physical game, probably the most physical game of the three games these two teams have played. They're playing for a championship. South Florida doesn't want to go down 3 times in a row. UCF, this is the game they've been playing, waiting for. It's going to be electric. I wish the game was not in Fort Worth. I wish it was elsewhere where they actually have fans in the building. That would be better. But it is what it is,
I'd be suited up and ready to watch. And listen, let me add this to it. You mentioned Destiny and Brittany. Listen, Masri Kaba is Masri Kaba. We've already cited that she can pull back and shoot from the high post and do some amazing things. What we've seen that I shouldn't say surprises me, but encourages anybody who's a fan of watching these ladies play. Brittany Smith has showed a toughness that I would not have expected from.
Brittany's really stepped it up in this tournament, these two games.
The whole year. I would say even the whole year since that USF game in Tampa, she's taken it to a different level. That's why she won the 6th Person of the Year award in the American. This is the best basketball that Brittany Smith has played in her UCF career, without question.
A great way to go out. Listen, Brittany buckets, she's doing her thing, man. But what I want to mention specifically is she wants to be remembered for her turnaround jumper. If you heard her interview surrounding her senior night, but what I saw today and in games towards the end of the season, the scrap in getting up for rebounds and battling and reaching for things. I'm like, listen, Destiny's got that. You don't have to do it. But then I say that, and here comes Destiny Thomas. Sure, most of her scoring is putbacks. I'm not going to deny that. But in the Tulsa game that ended the season, that was the season finale, she had some jump shots and has started to do her best Masri Kaba impression in making some high post shots and being more aggressive with the basketball. Start to actually put it on the deck 1 or 2 times to draw people and do things. And look out, gentlemen. Say what you will. But even though Masri Kaba and Brittany Smith are both going to be departing the program as a 5th-year senior and senior, they're fine in the post with Destiny Thomas staying around.
Yeah. One other note about what we've seen for that. So, and Eric, I want to talk to you about this. So let's put the result for tomorrow aside. And this is UCF's chance to win their first conference tournament championship since 2011 in Conference USA with Joy Williams. First, and an opportunity to win their first double, that is winning the regular season and conference tournament championship since 1999.
Ooh, great stat. Kyle, make a note of that. That's a great stat. Sharia Davis, right? Was the star player.
Sharia Davis was on that team. She's a UCF Hall of Famer.
I'm hearing you right, Jeff.
But zooming out for a bit, Eric, I want to take a look. All right, so we're looking at the 2 teams from the American that are going to go to the NCAA tournament, regardless of what happens on Thursday night. UCF right now 21st in the net. South Florida at 40. The latest bracketology, Charlie Cream has UCF as an 8 seed, which would be their best seed in school history, playing against the 9 seeds such as Arkansas. Perhaps that would set up. I
don't see that happening. They already played in the regular season. I hate when. Come on, bracketologists, be cleaner. Come on.
Well, the matchups, they never get the matchups right. Usually they get the teams right, but not the matchups right, which is I mean, it's hard to get the matchups right anyway.
Right, but don't pick a rematch. Like they never, I mean, the committee's one thing I will say, they don't put rematches in the first round.
But as I look at the bracketology,
yeah,
UCF has an 8. Do you, number one, do you think that's the right seed? And number two, that means in the second round, assuming UCF gets through the first round, you're playing a 1 seed.
Yep.
So, we're far afield, right? We're talking about a team that has never won a program that has never won an NCAA tournament game in its history in 6 tries. But this is as good a team as we have seen.
Well, it's the best shot, right? It's the best team they've ever had.
Their best shot,
yeah.
Not just to win a first round game, but potentially to get to the Sweet 16.
Well, that's going to be tough if they're an 8.
It depends on who you. But again, it depends on like we're saying, what seed do you get and who do you play?
And that's what it boils down to in every tournament. And gentlemen, let me add this too. Even if you don't think this is the best team in women's history, which I'm kind of biased. This is the first year I've been covering them.
Hey, you get credit, my friend.
Exactly. The heck do I know? But at the very least, guys, this is the most accomplished set of ladies in the program's history.
Without question.
Look at all the stuff they've crossed off the mark. You just mentioned another first that if they pull off that 8th seed and everything holds the way we expect, gentlemen, that 8th seed is the highest in program history. Masini Kaba scored her 1,000th point this season. Lisha Lewis had 10 steals in the game. The first time they won a conference since, what was that?
2005 was the first regular season championship.
Years ago. I just remembered. Right. Yeah. And I can go on down the line. How many conference team appearances? Defensive and player of the year for the conference, coach for the conference, 6th player for the conference. Gentlemen, if there were trophies for each and every single one of these things, I would need to buy a new cabinet. Actually, you know what I'll do? I'll lease USFs for football. Okay.
Wow.
Anyways.
There we go. Just throwing. There we go. Throwing shots.
Well,
I will say this, Jeff. Let me say real quick.
Ahead.
For them to have a shot in the Sweet 16, if you can get to a 6 seed, maybe even a 7, which I think it's possible if they win this title, that would be the best. It's going to be hard as an 8 seed. Women's basketball, the 1 seeds never lose. Never. And remember, the 1 seeds get to host. So it's not like you're playing them on a neutral court.
At home, yeah.
1
seed did lose.
Yeah.
Many moons ago. Stanford.
Yeah, that was 100 years ago. Yeah. That's I wouldn't expect that.
Years ago. It was 25.
If I may, gentlemen. One thing I will throw out. If there's a team that has the chemistry and the makeup to surprise a team like that, it is this one. Let me tell you why I say so. I have seen them play SEC teams, Tennessee specifically, that had ladies that were bigger than them when you look at the stats and the tail of the tape. Gentlemen, those Tennessee ladies were on their butts by way of Destiny Thomas and Masini Kaba.
Well, they could defend. They could be physical. They'll be.
That was early in the season too.
Right. Now, but again, we got to see. We'll have to.
Hold on, I'm not quite done.
We're getting ahead of ourselves. We got a title game we got to talk about.
I want to hear what Kyle has to say here.
The other piece is the defensive player of the year / player of the year diamond battles. If you put them on their star, you can utilize the Bill Belichick / any coach that plays method of taking away their best weapon on the perimeter and then dare them to match you in their second and third option. They won't have an answer for Brittany Buckets. I would suspect if they do, they deserve to win. But when you start getting into that depth and that nitty gritty and that versatility, they won't expect UCF to match it and they'll have a shot.
I would also put Tay Sanders in that bracket too, as kind of a key player on the wing. Now I'm a little concerned. Now she left the game today. She kind of limped off the floor. I didn't see what caused it, but maybe she rolled her ankle or something.
Might have been precaution. She was celebrating there at the end. So I
know she was on the bench celebrating. She didn't look any worse for the wear. But I mean, it's one of those things where it's like maybe she doesn't show up in any injury report, but it lingers. So I always worry about that. I will say this. Like you were saying, Eric, let's say UCF somehow can get to a 7 seed and they're in a 10. You'd play a 2 seed potentially in the first round. You know who Charlie Cream has as a 2 seed?
Go for it.
How about the UConn Huskies?
Oh, snap.
We don't want that either. Don't want that either.
Or how about the Baylor Bears?
Well, that's a future Big 12 conference game. We can wait on that.
How about the LSU Tigers?
Kim Bulkey done a heck of a job. That would not be as bad of a matchup deal there. But again, we're getting ahead of ourselves, boys. We got a championship game to worry about. We got next week to figure out the matchups and all that. We'll have a ton of coverage. We're gonna have. By the way, all the post games are on our YouTube channel. We'll have coverage of this. We'll have coverage on selection night, where we got bunch of plans and web plans for the tournament. Kyle's in his first year has helped this program get to the top 25 regular season title. Coach Abe has never won a Coach of the Year in the American until Kyle showed up. I'm just
I'm just helping
just
her
making
show
that point abundantly clear.
Intelligence and press conferences. Right?
Now we have perfect segue. A rather busy night tomorrow, not only because of the women playing in the championship game, but prior to that, the appetizer to the main course is another war on I-4 game between UCF and USF. This being the men in the first round of the men's tournament. 3 first-round games in the men's tournament, followed by the women's championship tomorrow. 4 games in Fort Worth. Both the UCF-USF games will be on ESPNU. 7 o'clock, it's UCF, the 6th seed, against the 11th seeded South Florida Bulls. Obviously, the two teams, as we know, split the regular season. UCF had what I guess let's call a spade here, a disastrous ending to the regular season with 2 losses on the road, including the season finale at Tulsa in a game where they blew a rather sizable lead and then got beat on a 50-foot buzzer beater on senior night, which is, I made the joke on Twitter, but it's only partially a joke. I'm like, write the $45 million. And you actually, Eric, you deserve credit for this because you said it first in the chat.
Oh, and we should, because
just write the $45 million check right now so that we never have to go back to Tulsa.
Ever
again.
We have now lost officially, folks, in walk-off fashion, in dramatic fashion, in football to them in that city. Softball's been walked off. Now basketball's been walked off. Thankfully, they don't have a baseball program, so baseball hasn't been walked off.
There's baseball, but no, Tulsa doesn't have baseball.
They don't.
If they did, they would probably.
And men's soccer just lost to them in the championship game. Last minute goal. We never know. Like, in fact, if I'm Mike Oresco, when as these negotiations are going, I would just threaten UCF: either you pay us, or we're going to send you to Tulsa as long as you're here. And I would guarantee, and then at that point, I would chip in and write the check.
What do you mean that Tulsa is the central championship spot for all sports in the American?
So it dropped UCF to 17-11, and remember, Kyle, we were saying 19-9 is we have a shot, right? Well, now they're set number 5 seed in the tournament. Well, they lose the last 2 games of regular season on the road. They finish the regular season 17-11, and they're playing in the first round. So, and to make matters worse, at least as of right now, is checking the latest D ratings, NIT bracketology, UCF's not even listed.
Yeah, you can thank that Tulsa game again. Yeah,
the Tulsa game I think was really what hurt.
Having both of them was awful, but at the end of it, I think something that's not being made enough of is the Tulsa game was rough, but the Tulane game I really think was tough because, first of all, I had no indication that Darren Green was going to miss that game.
Yeah,
nobody did.
Okay, and listen, this is a UCF thing. They're pretty good.
And Isaiah Adams missed the Tulsa game too.
Well, he left early in that game with an injury.
You're right.
And based on what Coach Dawkins said in his media availability this week, we'll see. It doesn't sound like Adams or Mayhem may be available Thursday. Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, if they're both out, that's problematic at this point. Because who
that's a euphemism.
Yeah, right. That when you would listen, credit to Tulane bringing out small ball, being aware of those shortages in those smaller positions, because there's only so much you can do. What are you going to do? You're going to bring out Jameel Reynolds at the 3 spot and have him chase people? That's a joke, obviously. But as swift as CJ Walker and Chike Mbaki are, you're in a rough patch at that point. And then, listen, say what you will about the Tulsa situation, just trying to overcome again. I'm not in favor of signing the $45 million check, but I understand. So, when you have
was that line from Chris Rock? I'm not saying you should sign the $45 million check. Right. But I understand.
But Kyle, I got to give you credit. Last week, you said it on this show. You were concerned about the week layoff. And I just, for whatever reason, they haven't played well in long layoffs, and they didn't play well in the Tulane deal. And, we could talk about the last second shot and the home cooking, the time clock there, but it should never have come to that point.
Yeah, we shouldn't talk about the home cooking and the time clock because I went frame by frame on that thing and he got the shot off.
Oh, there you go. Wow. That's
Did you miss that? My little breakdown on Twitter, Eric Lopez?
No, it was great. And people were still talking smack because you were delivering facts. But hey, enough about
I was too depressed. I was still in shock of what I saw. To be honest, I was too depressed. I think I stayed out of social media. So yes, I probably did miss that. Good. I did not know. I thought, okay, so he did get it off. Good. I feel better, I guess.
One last thing with the Tulsa piece, guys, it's very simple. We could say about this should have never happened. That should have never happened. Here's the stat that if I'm Coach Dawkins, I'm slamming on the table for everybody to look at, and I'm having them line up right at the charity stripe. 9 for 18, gentlemen. You have to be kidding me.
Including your senior missing a free throw, it puts you up 3 misses that sets you up to lose that on a buzzer beater. I mean, you're right. Like, this team didn't close. We've argued for weeks about the Temple home loss. Here's another one where they didn't close. This team just doesn't close well, especially on the road. It's tough, man. It's a bummer and it's disappointing. And now you've put yourself in a really bad spot, because now you're playing South Florida, and South Florida isn't very good, but South Florida can make their season by not eliminating UCF, then ending their season. That's what you've put yourself into now. Now we wanted to get that top 5 seed, avoid that, get a bye. You don't get that. Now you got to play USF. We don't know if this team is in full strength. Where are they physically? Where are they emotionally? Where are they mentally? Man, now you got to play your rival, and that's not going to be an easy game. I think that's going to be an ugly game. And if you somehow get by that, you got a fresh Memphis team looking for meat the next night.
Well, let's put this out here though. First, UCF is a 9.5-point favorite. I know, but
go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
There's a reason for that, right? And you were right. Memphis is coming up next, but personally, man, the Memphis has really surprised everybody, I think, including us. Like, ever since they lost that UCF loss that they suffered. Well,
they're playing to their potential finally.
They really have, and Penny deserves some credit, man.
Yeah,
they really have stepped it up. I have to double check and see what they, how many games they've won in a row yet. But now they're 19-9. You were saying to us in the group chat, Eric, that you think they've played themselves right into the NCAA
tournament. I mean, they've swept
Regardless.
Houston. Yeah, they swept Houston. They have a win over Houston, Alabama. They have a win over Virginia Tech. They're in. I would argue they're the favorites in this tournament right now. Houston's not what they were a few months ago. Obviously the injuries have caught up with them.
They've won 10 out of 11.
Yeah,
Memphis.
no,
10 of the last 11 since they lost.
Right.
3 in a row, the first of which was to UCF. They lost at UCF, at East Carolina, home to SMU, and then they ripped off 10 of 11.
Yeah, no, they're playing on a high level. Hopefully we get to play them, because that means we'd have beaten South Florida, which is the first step. They have to beat South Florida first. And Kyle, you were there when they beat South Florida, but we've also seen this team get embarrassed by South Florida in their worst game of the year. Now, the good news is we can't blame Andrew Glukoff this time. He won't be in attendance in person in Fort Worth for these USF games. So you can't use that as a crutch anymore, Kyle.
Wow. Andrew's not even here to defend himself.
I think he would agree with you. Listen, here's what I'll say, gentlemen. And I've made this point 2 other times in the season when it came true, right? I pointed out the stretch of games that built into the Michigan game, right? We had seen weaker performances. They had a few, no offense to these programs, but you're certainly not Houston, right? They had some games between Bethune-Cookman, what was it, North Carolina
A&T, yeah.
And during that time, they were climbing, and they got that punch in there to get the big win, right? Then they had another situation where I think it was the USF came and ECU back to back, and they were climbing, and then managed to get off a click of wins in a row until they ran into Houston again and hit that buzzsaw, unfortunately. But they were at 1.4 of 5 games in a stretch with that Houston game in there. I think what really knocked them off kilter was having no Darren Green against Tulane. Losing that game, I think, was deflating to take them into the Tulsa situation, which further deflated them. Now, I think that USF has the potential to be that tune-up game to where they could at least compete with Memphis. I'm not brave enough to call a Memphis win here simply because of the injuries surrounding the 3 spot. I'm still worried. Like, I've had we've all had our comments about Brandon Mahan and his streaky nature. But having him nor Isaiah Adams is problematic just from a personnel standpoint. I mean, heck, somebody at some point has to step in there and play those minutes. And I mean, I like Ty Freeman, but I don't know that that's a good idea to put him in that.
That's at that point you're playing. It's going to be a lot of Ty Freeman and a lot of Dre Fuller playing that. And if you're playing Dre at the 3, that means you're playing small.
I mean, I'll put it this way: does Coach Dawkins take a risk, have DJ Darius Johnson and Ty Freeman at the top of your backcourt and run Perry like a 3? He has the size for it, but I don't know that he wants that much youth, especially the first time you try it, per se, air quotes, in a tournament.
Well, especially if and again, we don't know if Adams and Mayhem are out, you're going to need Perry to score. And you don't need him to be guarding small forwards and, get beat up here. Darren Green and Perry are going to have to carry the scoring. Green's, and you're right. Once I heard Green was out for Tulane, I thought that game actually didn't surprise me as much because they need his perimeter shooting. Just the threat of him.
Yes.
Just opens up opportunities, really. I mean, him out of the game without Mayhem, without Green, it's easy team to guard, honestly. And so that part, you're right. They need Green there. They got to dominate up front against USF. They got to play defense, man. I mean, we've talked about the women's team and the defense. The thing that's the different with this team, they have, and I heard Darius Perry say this, which I thought was a very interesting comment, which I think in a way explains this team. He said in this media availability, hey, we're one of the best defenses in the country up until the shot, and we just got to clean that up. Well, rebounding after a shot is part of your defense. Your defense not done until you get the rebound.
I think he would agree with you. Yeah.
But I think that's the problem. This team has not been that lockdown defense like past UCF teams. And I think that's the thing. If you put Coach Dawkins inside of a room, Kyle, if you kind of one-on-one quietly off there, I think Coach Dawkins is probably the most disappointed in his defense. And how many times have you heard him in the postgame talk about the lack of stopping the ball from penetrating, from driving, from getting the rebounds. This has not been a typical UCF defense that I think this staff thought they could have the potential to be. They just, for whatever reason, if not materialized to be that defense that I think they thought they would be at the beginning of the year.
Well, you bring, real quick, statistically, what bears that out is the fact that they're 9th in the American in field goal percentage defense, 42.3. That's high. Out of 12 teams, that's high.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that's why, and it explains some of the, blowing a 14-point lead to Tulsa, not holding on a lead against Temple. Past UCF teams that were with defense would not lose those leads. That's where defense comes in, because college basketball offensively, it's no secret the offenses get kind of stymied towards the end of games, too much iso ball, whatever. But this team just hasn't had that identity defensively. But, they got to beat USF. They got to beat USF, because if they don't, it is a really horrible way to end your year, a bad taste for everybody involved. You got to try to get that win, get off to some mojo, and then you come play Memphis, and you hope that Memphis maybe, the bus turns and goes towards Houston instead of Dallas, misses the flight, maybe misses a route, and then, maybe we have a shot.
You're talking here to a guy who was covering Georgia basketball when the tornado hit the Georgia Dome, right? Yeah, and then remember that? And Georgia,
they did a good documentary there. Yeah,
Georgia had to win 2 games in one day, including one against the best, I think, the number 1 team in the country, in order to advance in the SEC tournament. And they won. They won the SEC tournament that year. So, like, maybe I'm romantic, maybe some people call me naive. I call myself romantic about championship week, because I've seen that, like, anything can happen. A team can just get hot at the right time.
Or as that Georgia team was healthy, this UCF team is not healthy.
That's an unfortunately correct point.
Unfortunately, I think UCF could beat South Florida and play Memphis. Unfortunately, I think Kyle will be writing the recap for that Memphis game around under 16 timeout in the second half.
Oh, listen, you know something? I hope the guys play that clip. Because if I'm Johnny Dawkins, I'm playing that clip right in front of everybody. They're like, this is, anything can happen, guys. I'm telling you,
Eric Lopez said about you.
If
it's Andrew. Just Stat Boy Drew. Tweet at Stat Boy Drew.
Now you're gonna want people to confuse.
Look, I mean, it's a hard matchup. First of all, you got to get to that game. And again, I'm not discounting this South Florida game. I might take the points if you force me. Thankfully, I don't. I'm going to stay away. But I mean, Memphis is going to press them to death, and UCF. And that's the problem. That's why we've talked about the show. To get that bye week, to get the bye is so valuable because you're going to run out of gas. It's hard to do. It's a tough draw, but they put themselves in this boat. Maybe they rally around it. Maybe they get some mojo. Maybe you play well against USF. You feel good. You can run that off. But man, it's a tough draw.
Listen,
because all right. Let's say the best thing. Sorry, Kyle.
No.
Best case scenario, you beat USF. You play Memphis. If you beat them, guess who's waiting for you?
SMU with the best player in the league, and Kendrick Davis. You have nobody that can guard him. So, I mean, it's not going to get easier. And then you may have to face Houston. I will say, if they were to beat Memphis and get to the semis, I think they could backdoor themselves back into the NIT. And I think that's a good thing. This team should have been a postseason team. Those are my expectations in October, not NCAA. Everybody was jumped the gun on that. I think this was an NCAA borderline NIT team if things go a certain way, and that's what I feel bad about. I think if a couple things go differently this year, maybe they are a postseason team, but that's sports for you. Sometimes the ball doesn't bounce your way.
Kyle, you've got the last word here. What do you want to see happen? What do you think will happen?
What I want to see happen, for the love of Pete, don't leave the damn corner 3 open. Okay.
Amen to that.
That is, you talk about these defensive staff, gentlemen. I don't really think it's anything in transition or in when they press, they're pretty tough. Listen, I mean, by the way, let's not discount our guy CJ Walker here in his ability to score. He had 19 in that game, gentlemen, right? And the game, what was it, 2 games before, in that ECU game where Darren Green had the buzzer beater, dude went 2 for 2 from behind the arc as well. Let's not act like he can't threaten on defense if Green is hitting his and opening up the floor. That all being said, for the love of God, somebody get on that corner 3. Okay. I think that's just murdered them. And it is a good portion of the reason for Jeff's stat of 9th highest field goal percentage allowed. I could do that research and dig in. Let's get an intern for that. So like, no, wait, where's Stat Boy? Is he busy? Anyways, but no,
Andrew not here to defend himself.
Wow.
He would tell me he wouldn't have time, but he'd love to do it. Listen, I know the guy well enough that assignment is right up his alley. Heck, it's right up my alley. I got 2 kids, but
he's going to be too busy analyzing the jersey look in the game. You know,
I got your damn anthracite. Anyways, no. So, but for my money, I think cleaning up that corner 3 issue is going to do a lot if they can, and let Bakke and Walker walk all over the Bulls. I
agreed.
That's something they can do. Get those guys in double digits. And then all you need is your 2 more double-digit scorers. Like I keep saying, all you need if you're Johnny Dawkins coach team is have 4 guys in double digits.
Well, we're going to find out tomorrow. ESPNU is where you want to be at 7 p.m. Just park yourself in front of the television for those 2 games. UCF men against USF
That's
men.
Correct. John Schriffen and Perry Clark will do the men's game, so make sure you mute that and just listen to Mark instead. And then the women's game is Tiffany Green and Brooke Weisbrod will be doing the game with Morgan Uber on the sideline. You could do what you want with that.
Former News 13 alum Tiffany Green.
Yes,
back in the saddle for doing UCF. Listen, T Green's had some good fortune with UCF over the years. She actually called the that legendary 5-set volleyball championship with Cincinnati in the venue.
Oh, good catch. Well, that's good. Good. I like that karma. They like that. That unfortunately Perry Clark and Schriffen just called the Tulsa game, so that's got me. That's why I'm nervous. I'm nervous. Kyle has give me some calm in this segment. But I'm still going to listen to Mark. I'm going to listen to Mark.
The bad luck in Tulsa was not because of the broadcasters.
I'll believe anything. I mean, if Roy Philpott was doing this game, I feel a lot better.
Well, it's a fair point. ESPNU, 7 o'clock, men against USF, 9 o'clock, women against USF. Trophy on the line in the late game, season on the line in the early game. It should be fun. Hopefully we'll get a little late night sweep on the U. That's what we're hoping for out here.
Fingers crossed.
I know. And then it's all about selection time for the women. And then we'll see what the men come up with against
women's selection show, by the way, 8 o'clock Sunday night on ESPN.
Yep.
The men's selection show will be at 6 on all the networks. The NIT, 9 o'clock. So, there's a lot of programming. We'll have all that coverage. We'll let you know where all the basketball teams are going. The American may have a shot at 3 bids in men's hoops with Memphis and SMU. UCF could crash the party, though. If they beat those teams, probably knock them out. So we'll see.
By the way, the quarterfinal game, should UCF defeat USF, as they are favored to do, would be 9 p.m. on Friday night. So
they love those late nights there, Kyle, if you noticed in the Lenny American there.
Hey, listen, I'm a night owl anyway. I do most of my work after the kids are in bed.
All right, good way to end that segment.
We are here.
Let's go.
All right, you're not done yet, Nash. Stick around, because when we come back, Kyle's going to stick with us, and we a little special interview that Kyle put together for us here with one of our favorite UCF Knights of all time, former center turned coach, now with the Cincinnati Bearcats program, and we will rightfully rag him for that. Jordan Johnson joins the program when we return. This is the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Don't go away.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
Welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez, Kyle Nash with you here as we shift gears from basketball over to the gridiron briefly, and really more alumni stuff, because if you followed UCF since 2016, since the start of the Scott Frost era, you know who Jordan Johnson is. A center who was the anchor of the offensive line through the Mackenzie Milton years, and a really beloved human. I mean, above all, one of the most interesting guys who I ever talked to at UCF in the 20-some years I've been covering this program, a 300-pound center who's a practicing vegan.
He was a vegan. Yeah, I used to call him vegan beef. It was great.
Yeah, and was just and was so not just like good to talk to from an entertaining, but was a really insightful dude. Mm-hmm. And he's since leaving UCF, he's gone into practice, he's gone into coaching, and has landed himself a gig as a graduate graduate assistant. Is that right? With staying within reach of UCF, at least in the American, and probably in the Big 12 if he stays there, with the Cincinnati Bearcats. And Kyle Nash, you caught up with him. Offensive lineman, kindred spirits, of course.
Thing I do.
We're going to hear from JJ in a second, but tell us what, is he happy where he is, and how excited is he to get this new venture started now in the American? And where was he before? He was coaching D3, is that right?
Yeah. He definitely kind of worked his way up into it. I mean, it's a heck of a story. He went from working on windshields or selling windshield repair, so to speak, selling air quotes. We talk about the details of it a bit in the interview, but he goes from involving himself in the repair of windshields to coaching, and going through that. You mentioned the D3 route and all that. As a graduate assistant, he is an assistant O-line coach with Cincinnati. But understand this: as much as those guys want to ask him about where the 2017 crew matches up with this past year's CFP participants, rest assured he's got some answers for them. I don't want to give the entire party away, but let's just say there are certain loyalties that do not change when it comes to Jordan Johnson, even though he has that Chick-fil-A logo with the 3 dots on his polo shirt now. Okay. I make that joke, but listen, yeah, he's incredibly happy, man. I mean, the only time I've ever seen him not be happy is to ask him a question about the 2015 season. That changes his face, but that's about it.
Well, let's go ahead and listen to that interview now. Here's Jordan Johnson with Kyle Nash right here on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.
Welcome in, fans of the Black and Gold Banneret. This, of course, is Kyle Nash, the student of the game, and I am here. Ladies and gentlemen, you have a very fantastic treat. This individual here is one of the first UCF football players I talked to. I started covering the team in 2017. This was one of the guys who I look forward to talking to regularly, not just because of his smiling face, but because of his intellect. And hey, I might be one of the few guys that didn't ask him about him being a vegan and an offensive lineman every week. But if you know that, you probably already know who this is. Let me welcome in former UCF center for the 2017 team and beyond, a bit there too, and the newest addition, one of the newest additions to the Cincinnati Bearcat coaching staff. How does that work exactly? Well, we'll find that out in a minute. We'll ask him. Jordan Johnson, how you doing this evening, man?
Man, I'm doing great, man. I'm doing amazing. All is well.
People might wonder why I had to mention the smile you always have when I talk to you. And then you come out in an intro saying stuff like that and save me the time of having to explain it. This is what it is to talk to Jordan Johnson, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I'm telling you. Anyways, before we get started, make sure you take time to find him on Twitter at 3rd Johnson Boy. That is the number 3 RD Johnson Boy. And, of course, he is starting up a YouTube channel here, doing a little bit of motivational action. We'll definitely talk about that a bit later here in the podcast. His working title on YouTube is Motivate with Coach J. And want to make sure we give a special shout-out to Amber Productions as well, to help him with some of the work getting that together. We'll get into that a little bit more later, Jordan. But first, man, listen. That's the first time I called you Jordan in a while. It's usually JJ. Anyway, tell me this, JJ. What with when you got out of school, kind of tell me what the trip looks like for you to get into coaching. Like how did that kind of evolve?
All right, so a lot of the people already know about how immediately after I finished coaching, I went into sales. I was going door to door trying to quote unquote sell free windshields. A lot of people don't know, but in the state of Florida, you get if you pay for full and comprehensive coverage, you are entitled to replace your windshield at no cost to you because you've already paid for it. So I was working with a marketing company that was taking advantage of that free, quote unquote, free opportunity. And I was going door to door, knocking on people's door, trying to convince them to buy a free windshield. So it was a tough thing to do, you know. And then once I put it on social media and the UCF fans heard about it, you know, I know that their support is endless. So as soon as I finished posting it on social media, it blew up, and I became the #1 windshield salesman in the state of Florida for 3 weeks in a row. So it is no secret how much support I have with the UCF fan base. The UCF Twitter Mafia is amazing, man.
Yeah, you know, you are not the first story of support when it comes to the social media reach of Knight fans. That's for certain. I mean, heck, I might have retweeted 1 or 2 of those. I'm not gonna lie.
Exactly, man. And then immediately after doing that, one day I'm in the field. I'm going door to door, knocking on doors, and Tom Shaw Performance called me, and that's who I did my pro day training with. Unfortunately, my pro day was canceled because I came out the year of COVID. But when I didn't get drafted, and I made a good impression on Tom Shaw and Kelsey Martinez, the first female to work in the NFL as a coach. Once I made a good impression on them, as I was training with them, they called me and asked me to join their staff. So I became a strength and conditioning coach in Daytona Beach with D&Me Sports is where they were based out of. And Tom Shaw took me in. He treated me like his son, you know, and I could forever appreciate him for that because him and Kelsey Martinez, they started my coaching career. And then shortly after I ended up moving to Michigan to go coach at Madonna University. I coached under Herb Haygood, who is famously known for scoring the game-winning touchdown against Notre Dame. He played for Michigan State, and he played under Nick Saban at Michigan State.
Wow.
And, yeah, he brought me in. I was his offensive line coach for the inaugural season at Madonna University. It was their first time having a football team. Then I got the call to move down to Northeastern State in Oklahoma. I coached under J.J. Eckert, who is the son of Tom Eckert, who is the winningest coach or one of the most winningest coaches at Northeastern State. So just a lot of big names, and being around those guys and learning so much. And then I got the call to move to Cincinnati, and I had to take it, and they understood that. And it was a tough decision to make, given that I'm an alumni, and I played against Cincinnati a good amount of times, but it's been nothing but good-natured fun to talk about the old stories, especially with the players, because as a young coach, I played against a lot of those guys.
Yeah, that must be fun in itself there too. I mean, you know, before we got on the air here, you did a little coach's basketball game. How heated did that get?
Man, it's a lot of fun to be able to play with guys who are competitive, just as competitive as you are. Mm-hmm. And it got pretty heated. Not gonna lie to you, it was all fun-natured competition though, and then just competing against each other and having a lot of fun doing it while burning some calories, you know, because I am no longer the 320-pound offensive lineman I used to be. So I definitely don't want to ever get that big again. So whenever I can have the opportunity to burn some calories, I definitely take advantage of it.
Yeah, you know, and spending all that time being a vegan offensive lineman, for those that didn't know, like now, are you still vegan? And how much is that helping you keep all that weight off?
Unfortunately, I am no longer vegan.
Okay.
I'm not going to make excuses. I hate to sound like someone who makes excuses. But when I moved to Oklahoma, it was just not a whole lot of vegan options out there.
I can imagine.
And I had to do what I had to do. But nowadays, as a graduate assistant, meals are included. So what I vow to always do is to not contribute to the meat industry anymore. So with my personal money, I don't go and purchase just meat and meat products and stuff like that. However, if they have it available for me at the dining hall or any other availability they have with meals, I take advantage of having a free meal and consuming meat products.
I mean, hey, any young professional would thoroughly understand your plight in that instance, man, no doubt. You know, JJ, you mentioned earlier being a former player, of course, obviously, and getting that competitive blood flowing and things like that. During your coaching journey here, I have to assume you've at least kept one eye on the TV every now and again when it comes to your other alumnites and other guys that used to play in the past. You've been watching the current team some, I have to assume. So the first question out of the gate I have to ask is, what do you think about what Gus Malzahn's been doing at UCF and or even Terry Mahajer as well, the new director? How cool is it that UCF is this close to joining the Big 12 along with Cincinnati?
Hey man, I'm excited. I'm excited for both situations, for both programs. I'm still the biggest advocate for UCF being the national champ, so I would definitely always just show love to that. And whenever the guys here try to talk about UCF, I'm always coming to UCF's defense, of course. But at the end of the day, I coach for the Bearcats now, and I let them know that. So yesterday in the meeting, one of the players he was talking to me about how they beat UCF now, and I'm like, what does that have to do with me? When I was at UCF, we did what we had to do against Cincinnati, and he was like, blah blah blah, you know, he said, you know, some that and that, and then he was like, he said something else, and I was like, why are we even talking about this? I coach for the Bearcats now, you know.
Oh, so nice.
Exactly. So just got to let them know what's up, but also help them understand that we're all on the same team now. We got missions to accomplish.
Well, I mean, if he ever does take it to that place again, JJ, I got you back with this. Make sure you remind him that former Cincinnati quarterback Desmond Ridder, to this day, remembers the evening that you played him when game day was in town. And I believe he's on record saying that it was the loudest environment that he played in. So whatever that's worth, I mean, you can remind him what the score of that game is or isn't or was or wasn't if you need to. But I just thought that could be something you have in your pocket, right?
Yeah, man, for sure. But, it's all love. I definitely I'm a competitive person. So by nature, if somebody's talking about my alma mater, I got to come to defense. Like, that's like my initial reaction. And then I try to clean it up at the end. Like, yeah, we're on the same team. Yeah. I
mean, you mentioned your competitive spirit, and it gets lured out, and then you're like, well, but you see, that was then. I'm here now. I get it.
Exactly. And I posted a picture on my social media accounts with the Cincinnati logo on, and I got a lot of feedback from the UCF fans. All of it good natured, all of it positive, but also they're like, "All right, we're gonna see you October 29th."
Hey, at least they got it marked on the calendar, man. And listen, from my perspective, I sent you. It's been a number of months since I sent you this, but I sent a picture of you on senior night before the game, and you're throwing the ball into the crowd, and perhaps the widest smile on your face. And I'm there experiencing that at the bounce house. You got your UCF colors. So I have to say, it was different seeing you stand next to the Bearcat logo. But that being said, I would much rather have that smile there than you not enjoying yourself in this new environment and opportunity. I'm sure that's going to be awesome. But I know it's going to come up. You've already mentioned October 29th. I know it's way early, but I have to ask, what do you anticipate you'll be feeling on the sideline coaching against your former team?
I'm excited, man. I'm excited. There's a couple of my guys that are still on the team there, so it'll be a good opportunity to see them. Hopefully we get a picture after the game. And I understand that this is a situation that we're brought up against, but all of my former teammates, they've all been so happy for me and just excited for the opportunity that's placed in front of me. And I'm just happy. I'm excited to be here. Like going the NAIA route and then the D2 route has helped me appreciate things more. If I would have came straight from UCF to Cincinnati, I would have just felt like that this is what college football is supposed to be like. But no offense to the lower levels, but they just don't have the same amount of resources and the same amount of support staff and the same amount of everything available that the Division I level has. So now that I'm here, I'm the guy that's running around that's happy to be here. This is great, and I'm excited, and that's the kind of spirit and energy that is contagious. And the other guys feel that way too because of me,
It's very interesting what you describe as your coaching evolution here, so to speak, isn't too far off from UCF being a G5 once and then evolving. I mean, there were a number of conferences they were in the G5 before they were even in the American, obviously, and now they're getting into that big jump to be that major program, much like you're getting in there to coach at a major program in the Big 12, just like UCF's playing. And I can't help but notice a little bit of the parallel there going on as far as that. So, obviously, I like that you're showing the humility there too. And I'll put it this way. Is that something that you think you'll be able to use to communicate and coach with players better?
Oh yeah, for sure. I remember talking to Coop. We call him Coop, Jeremy Cooper, our left guard, and I was in the dining hall with him, and I was like, "Hey, bro, enjoy this. You better make sure you appreciate this, man, because it's not like this everywhere, And I was like, "Y'all got something special here, man, and just appreciate it and take it all in stride, because one day it's gonna be a day where you got to hang up the cleats. I'm not saying it's coming anytime soon, but just take it all in, man, and enjoy where you are right now. Be where your feet are, and get the most out of your opportunities." I as a college football player, or at least a former one, who wishes that he went a little bit harder, I'm like, bro, you got the capability to go harder right now. You don't have to look back at your career and wish you went harder. You can just go harder right now. So go do it.
And I love hearing that advice and all that. That's a good perspective. I mean, you kind of remind me kind of the whole Shaquille. When you said that, first of all, I wouldn't have known it to look at you that you didn't feel like you were giving 100%. But I mean, You were still amazing in that, right? Obviously. But I'm forced to ask, with you giving, how much more important is that advice that you're giving Coop there, in the era of the transfer portal being what it is, and NIL being a factor with guys moving around and things like that? Like, how much more weight does that advice you just told me hold in this new environment?
I mean, I'm sure that me telling him that helps him understand that, like, and not just him, just anybody I come in contact with.
Right.
Helps them understand that, like, it's not like this everywhere. You know, y'all have a really good thing, a really special thing here, and take advantage of it. I think a lot of guys go into the portal and then they get somewhere and realize that they didn't realize how good they had it until it's gone, you know? And it's amazing to see when guys are giving their all and going hard, because that means that they understand and they appreciate it, and they're trying to take advantage of all the resources that they have in front of them.
Yeah, you know, that message of appreciation is something we heard about a lot, you know, with COVID being on. I mean, you mentioned to me your pro day being canceled due to protocols and things like that. And you know, the year after you were there, you know, Coach Heupel often said it's about, you know, the opportunity to play that's pushing him, things like that. And hearing you add that perspective, for a minute there, I'll confess, I thought sometimes when I'm hearing that, it's kind of a coach speak or just kind of the message, but it's good to hear a player / coach as yourself kind of add that perspective. It adds a little bit more weight and what's his word, gravity to it. Like it felt like that was more genuine when I heard it. So yeah, let me take you to this. Just overall with NIL and the transfer portal being around now, obviously those weren't things in the same way that they were back when you were a player. Obviously there's been a lot of changes, you know, to the college landscape because of that. In your mind, what's some of the bigger things that you think will either enhance or challenge what you're doing as a coach?
First and foremost, I just want to say that I'm jealous. I'm jealous of these guys. I went to college at the wrong time. Oh, man. Like, I would have been a millionaire given and this isn't to toot my own horn, but I'm just willing to interact with people, you know?
That's true.
The more willing you are to interact with people, they like you more, you know? And I would have had more opportunities just given the fact that I'm willing to put myself out there.
Well, and that, I mean, look at your stick. As a vegan offensive lineman, that would have been unique.
Oh, yeah, for sure. There's no telling who would have decided to sponsor me, given the brand that I built for myself and that the UCF Twitter Mafia helped me build. And,
yeah.
You know, but I think that as a coach with this new NLI situation and the transfer portal, it's almost like NFL free agency now.
Yeah.
You know, it's like who can offer me the most money as a recruit? And I wish that it wasn't that way, because you want to go somewhere because at the end of the day, when you graduate, like, you are going to always be remembered by the school that you went to. And you don't want to just go to the school because they offered you the most money. You know, like, coaching changes happen all the time. Mm-hmm. And my older brother, he went to college to play college football before me. So he helped me understand that when I was a recruit, don't go to a college because of the coaches. Because, quite frankly, the coaches might not be there the whole time that you're there. So go to the school for the school, because that's what's going to be on your diploma when you graduate, and that's what you're always going to hold true to. That's going to always be a part of your identity. So it's disheartening a little bit to know that guys are choosing schools based on how much money they're getting offered, basically, because that's what it is. But, like, I also can't blame the players either, because, like,
yeah,
you know, they want more money. That's like and I don't like it when people, like, frown upon people wanting more money. Like, it's okay to want financial stability. That is completely okay. And a lot of people say that you shouldn't work a job just for the money and stuff like that. And you really shouldn't. You should definitely do something that you're passionate about, but you should also do something that you're passionate about, and it brings in a lot of money, you know?
I mean, if you could have both, how on earth do you say no?
Exactly.
No, man, I listen, I follow that 100%, man. So So I have to ask, you're officially in Cincinnati now. You're in with the coaches doing certain things. Have you had a chance to talk to Coach Fickle yet? And when you first did, what was that experience like?
Coach Fick is such a personable guy, and he's very charismatic, and like he reminds me of Coach Frost a lot. And because he's just like, he has the swag, like he has like the it factor about him, to where you kind of want to do what he says, because like that he has the right plan. He's that guy. Like he's like that guy, and he works out every morning. He used to be a D lineman, but you could never tell because his stature is just such a, like, he commands respect, and not by the things that he says, just like who he is, And I remember this morning, I was to the treadmill. It's probably 6:30 in the morning. He's already in there on the treadmill, and I called myself competing with him. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stay on here longer than he does. Man, it didn't go well. I'll tell you that much. He was on there before I got there, so there's no telling how long he was there. And I got up before he did. So on the way to the team meeting this morning, I was walking behind him, and I said, you don't know this, but I was silently competing against you on the treadmill today. And he was like, I can't even remember what he said, but I was like, hey man, I'm gonna continue to compete against you silently, so watch your back, And it was a good time, and I'm excited to just be a part of this program, because just learning from these guys is gonna help me a lot.
Yeah, Jordan Johnson here talking with us on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Listen, man, I have to ask this. Well, first of all, real quick to the treadmill story, like, did he say anything that might imply that because you were there, he stayed on longer?
No, he didn't. I don't even think he noticed me, quite frankly. But
no, that makes it worse.
That does make it worse. Now that I think about it. But it's all right, because I'm about to continue to burn these calories, and I'm coming for them.
Okay. Do you got a target? Do you got a target you're trying to get to?
So when I immediately stopped playing, I got down to 240 pounds.
Wow.
And I didn't appreciate it. I was 240. I was looking good, and I didn't appreciate it at all. So this time, I got back up to 280 by the time I moved to Oklahoma. I gained 20 pounds in Michigan, and I gained 40 pounds in Michigan, and then another 40 pounds or something like that. It was crazy. I got back up to 280, and I was like, yeah, this ain't it, And I was like, I got to do something about this. So I started working out again. I started eating more healthily, and I can see the fruits of my labor, and it's great, but I'm not done yet. I'm about probably 260 right now, so I've lost 20 pounds since I got up to 280, but I'm trying to get back down to 240 again and actually appreciate it this time.
240. I haven't been 240 since high school, bro. Dang. Anyways, so it's cool talking about you doing the whole plan, and what you're doing coaching is a cool story. But you and I were talking before we got on the air that there's a little something else you might be working. Well, you're working on a lot of things. Like we talked about you being a motivational speaker and trying to get that going on YouTube and all that sort of thing. And there was something about a book you were thinking about writing, or something that you're trying to make happen.
Yeah, man. I got some big plans for the future. I'm truly excited, honestly. I'm the most motivated right now that I've ever been in my life. And I wish I was just motivated when I was a college football player. I'm not motivated to the NFL, but I'm driven right now. I'm excited for the future, and I've started this motivational speaking journey to where I'm just using my platform as a coach, because as a coach, you're naturally a motivational speaker. So it's an easy transition. And I'm doing things with One Kid Orlando, the nonprofit organization that I have with Anthony Roberson. We were planning a food drive, and unfortunately I had to postpone it because I moved to Cincinnati, and I didn't expect to get the call from Cincinnati, which is out of the blue. So I had to postpone the food drive that we were planning, but it's coming soon. And then on my drive up here, I stopped and I stopped in Indianapolis with my aunt, and my aunt had a book in her little library at her house, and the book was The Little Engine That Could. And I read that book for the first time in I don't know how long. So it truly inspired me to want to write my own children's book. And the first thing I thought of was the 2017 season and how magical it was, you know? And I was like, this would be the perfect children's book. It could be similar to the Little Engine That Could. It could be the little team that could, or the little knights that could, or something like that, you know? So I was just inspired once I read the book, and I'm excited for the future. I'm motivated. I look forward to hopefully someone helping me write a book, because quite frankly, I've never written a book before, so I don't even know where to begin. But I want the book to be something along the lines to commemorate the 2017 season, as well as help us understand how truly magical it was, something that will forever be forged in gold, you know?
Forged in black and gold, according to the UCF fanhood for sure. And I think they might add this, JJ, when it comes to the whole Little Engine That Could theme. One would argue that cargo that very train might have been carrying could have been Cincinnati, as they had the opportunity to make it to the CFP the Final Four playoffs there. So I can see the tie in there. I like what's going on. I do not that I have any creative control, but a little free tidbit you might want to work in there for the fans, eh?
Yeah, man. Hey, the process of writing this book is going to be a long road, and I appreciate you saying that. You might have just helped me out a little bit.
Listen, I look for no credit. Just put something about the student of the game somewhere. I'm kidding. So listen, JJ, before we let you go, fantastic having you on, by the way. This was absolutely awesome. And don't be shocked if at some point I am absolutely begging for an opportunity to do it again with you here. This was great, man. But go ahead and tell all the good people where you can be found, where you want to be found, and anything else we may need to know before you go, man.
So, guys, I want you guys to first and foremost follow me on my social media platforms. Currently, it is at Third Johnson Boy, 3RD, my last name Johnson, BOY, and that's Twitter and Instagram. My YouTube channel is Coach J. You can type in Jordan Johnson Motivational Speaking, and it'll come right up. Subscribe to that, because I'm working with Ember Productions. Amber and Maxwell have been so helpful for me, and I'm looking forward to working with them in the future. All of the videos that I posted thus far have been on my own, and I've edited them all myself. And even the first one that's on the YouTube channel right now, I put on there raw and uncut, because it is not edited. It is not anything. I just recorded it and posted it. And I'm looking forward to actually working with a production team that's going to help me take my YouTube videos to the next level and take my motivational speaking to the next level, because I got some things that I want to share with some people, and I know that it can help them. And I've been helped by so many good people, and I'm just relaying information, and I'm excited. So follow me on my social media platforms. Continue to support the YouTube channel. Look out for the One Kid Orlando food drive coming soon. And as always, go Knights and charge on, baby.
Look at that. We officially got a Cincinnati Bearcat coach to say that on record. Let that be clear. No, I'm just kidding, man. Listen, best of luck to you, man. I love the path you're taking. Obviously, we're all still going to follow you and wish you the best of luck on except for a certain day in late October. We'll let that slide. But hey, listen, man, JJ, great having you on. Looking forward to the next one. And I appreciate you coming on, man. Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, the student of the game with the Black and Gold Banneret. Find me on Twitter at the SOTG. But until next time, everyone, class dismissed.
Wow. Special thanks to JJ for joining us. And thanks to you, Kyle, for getting that all set up and knocked out. And it's always good to hear from JJ. And, I guess we're, after talking to him, like, what was your sense of like the direction that he's headed, and where do you want his career to progress?
I mean, in my mind, I would want him at the very least, his next gig to be, taking over, running an offensive line of his own, being the top offensive line coach. And this is the kind of guy that can be a leader of men. I would play for this guy,
Yeah. I mean, he was so beloved by his teammates. The coaches absolutely loved him. He strikes me as the perfect kind of guy to be like a 21st century coach, where he does, the 20th century coach, I think of like George O'Leary, right, is very authoritarian, and with all the good and bad that comes with that. Okay? Right. Where JJ is more of like, it's almost like coach isn't the right word. It's almost like he's a mentor.
Correct. I mean, listen, and it's appropriate that the guy is trying to start up his own motivational speaking YouTube channel. We talk about that a little bit already, obviously, but like if that isn't part of what will be his hallmark as a coach, as he progresses up through the rankings, I mean, I don't know what is, but hey, who knows? Maybe at some point too, he comes back to the state and does business here in the future.
That's what I'm hoping. Hey, who knows? Wherever JJ ends up, as wherever his career takes him, whoever he's with is going to be lucky to have him. And there's no doubt about it. So best of luck to JJ. It's going to be really hard seeing him on the Cincinnati sideline. I will say that, but I think he gets that.
He says it will be hard for him too.
a job's a job, man. We saw Kevin Smith on the FAU sideline a couple of times. I mean, it's as odd as that is, but I love seeing more of the UCF diaspora out there.
Diaspora, that's a word, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, in the coaching circles. So because that means people really do believe in are buying what UCF is selling quite honestly. All right. Kyle Nash, student of the game, the SOTG on Twitter. Class is officially dismissed for you. You may, but we will be following you all throughout tomorrow. You've been doing the recaps for the women.
Yes.
You and I will be splitting duties tomorrow between for the men and the women as we have that doubleheader tomorrow. Thanks again for everything you've been doing. And
that's Thursday for those of you, by the way, they're listening on Thursday.
Yeah, that's right. Since we are recording this late Wednesday night. So the SOTG on Twitter. Thanks again, Kyle.
Honor, joy, and privilege as always, gentlemen. But until next time, class dismiss.
Stick around when we return on the Black Gold Banneret Podcast. Eric and I will break things down in softball and baseball with Bryson Turner. We'll be right back. This is the Black Gold Banneret Podcast. Welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez with you, joined by Bryson Turner as we late on this Wednesday night as we prepare for another big weekend of UCF sports. Hopefully it will go. Well, I mean, we talked about how big a weekend it would be. Hopefully we have, a little bit more hoops to talk about like we just did with Kyle Nash. But Bryson here is going to be following things on the baseball side of things as he was earlier tonight with UCF getting an 18-4 victory over Florida A&M. That's on the heels of they beat Bethune-Cookman 6-2 in Daytona yesterday at Jackie Robinson Ballpark. And UCF got 1 out of 3 against number 2 Ole Miss, including that 1-0 game on Saturday. Let's start there, actually, Bryson. Connor Stain was fantastic in that game. He actually won or got some national recognition this week for his performance. But man, he's really been something. UCF got the win on a walk-off single by Riley Wash in the 12th inning, 1-0 in 12 innings. But it was the Connor Stain show. That gave up just 2 hits, struck out 10, walked only 1 over 7 innings. And then Chase Santala came in and threw 5 innings of 1-hit ball, 16 total strikeouts for the 2 of them across the 12 innings. UCF got the win. Even though Saturday didn't work out, or rather Sunday didn't work out the way UCF wanted, it's still a nice little feather in your cap as they did take 1 from the number 2 team in the country.
Oh, yes, I agree. I mean, I was going to mention, you said it was the Connor Stain show, and I'm like, hey, don't count out Chase Santala because he did very good as well. But no, yes, Saturday was an absolutely great baseball game to watch, tense the whole way through. But I will say, One thing that really stood out to me of what Lovelady said the previous day was that Ole Miss really only had one big hit more than UCF did. UCF was one big hit away from winning this series. When you go back to Friday and you see that that UCF actually had the bases loaded in the 8th inning. And they managed to score 1 run with Alex Freeland to make it a 1-run deficit, which would be the 8-7. And they just couldn't really capitalize it at the end. They came up just short. So honestly, I combine that with the record-setting attendance. This series broke the series record for John Juliano Park for both weekend and in general. I mean, I would say overall, this was a very successful series for UCF baseball, even though Sunday definitely left much to be desired. But I mean, but I think the biggest thing is that Connor Stain has been the real deal. He was under the weather last week and he still actually pitched really well. So the fact that he's healthier now and did what he did, absolutely great. I think that the series can definitely give a vote of confidence towards this team.
So 2 midweek wins later, UCF scored 18 runs against Florida A&M today. Or I should say today on Wednesday night. That vaults them toward this 3-game series at home with, or rather 2 games, I should say, with North Florida on Friday and Saturday at home before they go to Jacksonville on Sunday for the 3rd game of the series. Sort of an unusual 2 and then 1 sort of home and home thing over a weekend. But what do we know about North Florida coming in to this? I mean, looking at the ASUN standings right now, they're off to a pretty rough start at 4-10. But what is this? What do you expect to see this weekend as UCF takes on UNF in these 2 games at home, followed by the 1 on the road?
Well, North Florida, this is actually the second time the Knights are going to be seeing North Florida this season. The reason why they're going to Jacksonville, I think, is to have it be a 2-2 because
that's correct.
UCF went to Jacksonville earlier on February 22nd and won it 3-2. It was a very close game. So now, granted, it was a midweek game, so a little bit different in terms of pitching. But I would definitely keep an eye out for Jeffrey Pena. Jeffrey Pena did very well, went 2 for 4 with 2 of the runs in that game. So I definitely would keep an eye out for him. I would also keep an eye out for Chase Santala because he pitched in that game. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he came in relief, possibly, because obviously we have the weekend, so they'll have the weekend starters. And as far as tonight with Florida A&M goes, this is just another one of those games like with Siena where everybody really got to have a chance. I mean, what really got me was the fact that, one, Alex Freeland got a home run. He had a very good showing tonight. 2, Cole Russo came off the bench and hit and managed to went 2 for 2 with 3 RBIs off the bench. I mean, that was just, I thought that was quite amazing. And then Lex Bodeker also had a good night, going 3 for 4 with 2 RBIs as well. So I think what last night, I think showed us is that this incoming class, like these newcomers to this team have really improved them. I think even that goes back to Ole Miss with Connor Stain and Chase Santala. Like we talked about how the starting pitching was kind of a weak point of this team last season, and the bullpen was the strong point. But not only have they reloaded at the bullpen despite an injury to Zach Bennett, but they've also reloaded the starting rotation with moving David Litchfield there and putting Connor Stain there, and combine that with some of these new fielders. I think that this team has really improved itself over what we saw last season. And I think this whole week of games with number 2 Ole Miss and these 2 midweek games where a lot of people got to see some action prove that.
Starting to see some real similarities in the pitching staff to that ill-fated 2020 team that got off to that really good start, and the pitching staff was just on point. Right now, UCF has 3 guys who've shown up, who've had at least 1 appearance, who haven't given up a run. Connor Stain right now is in 3 appearances, all 3 starts, 15 2/3 innings. He's given up no runs, 3 hits. or no earned runs, 3 hits, two runs total, walked 8, struck out 20. And opponents are hitting 061 against him as a starter. That's really impressive.
I have a little story about that. On Sunday, while I was watching the game, I was kind of working on my phone, like keep an eye on the stats and everything. And this guy comes up behind me and asked about Connor Stain. This guy was a scout, and he was asking me about Connor Stain and where I could find what his fastball speed was. And I pointed him to the UCF Baseball analytics account. I just
wait. The scout is asking you, like, wait, he can't figure this out. Like he's asking, how did he run into you? Like, how does that work? Like, how did he run into you and like figured you had all the answers to this?
Bryson looks important.
I had a computer. I had a laptop probably is what it was.
That's true.
I had a laptop. And it was on Sunday, so Stain wasn't pitching then. So but no, I just thought that was really cool. And I think it shows you just how the talent that Connor Stain has, because scouts are paying attention.
Well, in the arms, right? The talented arms. I mean, we haven't even talked Hunter Patterson, who didn't have his best day on Sunday. He's going to be a guy that's also the scouts are looking at. And that's the thing that's exciting, right? Is they got these quality arms. They're a swing away from winning that Ole Miss series. Great crowds so far this year. The Siena crowd opening weekend was great. If they can continue that, marketing's done a great job over there. Citronauts, I know, Jeff, you're all about.
Saturdays have been a huge. I know. Listen, Eric, I know how you feel about the Citronaut thing. Citronaut Saturdays is a hit.
Hey man, merchandise, bring in the dollars. As long as people spend money,
come on, Nike.
One other little thing I wanted to point out. Alex Freeland, you gave some props, Bryson, to Alex Freeland. He's on an 8-game hitting streak right now. And has raised his average. He was really struggling to start out, but he's knocking on the door 300 at this point. So it's good to see how he.
Well, but he was going to hit always. I mean, right now in my brain, there's a Brian Murphy's voice is yelling at us saying, "Guys, baseball's a small sample. Do not overreact to early trends." And I think that applies to Alex Freeland. So anybody that was worried about him off to a slow start,
it's not easy to hit in 8 straight games at any level. I mean,
I know it's not easy to get rid of Brian Murphy's voice out of my head either, but that's it's a whole other
story. So that's the situation for UCF baseball right now with the series against.
Well, here's the big thing:
Florida coming.
If they could take care of North Florida, let's say win 2 out of 3, sweep would be ideal. Wednesday night, a week, Miami comes to town. Big midweek
right
there.
Here.
Big midweek there. That'll be a juices there.
Is Miami ranked, Eric?
Well, I think they just lost to Florida. So, but it's Miami. Obviously, I think they were ranked. We'll see if you have to look up if they're ranked. But, we'll see what happens there. But, Bryson, you've been to the park.
Different rankings.
There's a million in baseball. Bryson, speak to the crowds, though, because I think the crowds can make a difference, right? You talk to Coach Lovely, and the crowds do make a difference for these players. And I sense a buzz here with baseball, and maybe, I don't know if it has to do with the MLB lockout and people just are starving for baseball. I think part of it is marketing. I got to give them credit. They've done a great job promoting this. I think there's a thirst here, the passion for this baseball program, and I think if this team can, they'll rally around this crowd support, they can become win a lot of home games here. You've been to the park. What's it been like?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that the Ole Miss crowds especially were electric. I think that there was a lot of great audience participation with that. And I think what's really cool is that tonight at the Florida A&M game, while the crowd wasn't especially large because, it's a midweek game, it's Florida A&M, it was about just under 1,000 people, but a good portion of that 1,000 was actually a Canadian youth team called the Ontario Royals. I'm telling you what, I saw a whole bunch of those guys at the walking around the field, and I could have sworn they probably made up maybe like 10-20% of the audience. But I got to talk to a couple of them, and they said they were going to come down to watch spring training, but of course with the MLB lockout that didn't happen. So now here they are. They ended up coming here. So I think that so even with Florida A&M, like honestly, for Florida A&M, for a midweek against a Florida A&M type team, I think it was a solid crowd.
Yeah. By the way, we talked about Miami. They just dropped out of the D1 baseball top 25. Just dropped out of it
because of the Florida series. They got beaten up by Florida a little bit there.
But they're right there knocking on the door. Chance, and if UCF can actually turn some heads with a W, right now you're looking at the Knights are 10-3. You sweep UNF, as you're probably supposed to, because UNF was picked 6th preseason.
At least win 2 out of 3. At least win 2 out of 3. Right?
Win 2 out of 3. You're at 12-4. You get a win over Miami. You're 13-4. You know, so. And then
just better mojo overall. Remember a year ago, Jeff, how this from the opening day, it was just like it just seemed like this team couldn't catch a break at all. It's it just has a different vibe so far.
Yeah, and I'm liking this vibe so far. So pay attention to that, and Bryson will be paying attention to that as we move into the weekend. Speaking of the weekend, Eric Lopez, your UCF softball team is a long way from home. They are out on the West Coast for that big road trip that you've been touting. So far, it's gotten off to a pretty good start. They were in Stockton on Tuesday and run ruled Coach Bear's alma mater, the Pacific Tigers, 8-0 in 5. They're at Fresno, and as of this very moment, Eric Lopez, as we're recording this at 11:03 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday night, March the 9th, what's the latest update right now?
Well, they're up 7-2, bottom of the 6th, 1 out. We thought we could get the final in here. Jeff will have to do some magical editing and let us know the final result on this one, but it's the second game of the West.
Or we can just stall in this segment until the game is, over. I mean, we're up 5 runs. I mean,
bottom of the 6th. It's all the days.
This thing out. Gianna Mancha's throwing tonight, and she's having
a nice game. Circe has got the 3 hits in the game. Cody's doing. Let's talk about Jada Cody. Just 2
we
ribbies
need to
in this
talk
game.
about Jada Cody a little bit here, because she had what you termed maybe the best single weekend a UCF softball player has ever had. And now that raises my eyebrows, because I remember when Stephanie Best knocked in about 1 million runs in one game against Army, in the game where she hit 2 grand slams in 1 inning. But you're saying this may have been the best weekend for a UCF softball player ever.
You look at what Cody did: 4 home runs, drove in 14 runs, scored 5 runs herself. Put it in perspective, UCF scored 37 runs over the weekend in 5 games. Jada Cody was involved in 51% of those runs scored.
Either scoring them or driving them in.
Correct, which is an insane number. And not only that, she was doing all this while she was starting at second base, she started at third base, and she started at catcher. The only thing she didn't do is jump in the booth and join me for a couple innings to be an analyst. Everything else she covered. So she was unbelievable. She hit the big 3-run homer against South Carolina that turned the game around on Saturday when they beat the Gamecocks, which was big. And she just destroyed Florida Gulf Coast in that sweep. She's the fastest UCF player ever to 30 RBIs in a season. Think about that, Jeffrey. 30
than Stephanie Best.
By 15 games, she surpassed Stephanie Best. That's insane.
Who was the fastest? Was it Steph?
Yeah, it was Steph. When in doubt, folks, any offensive UCF softball record, just guess Stephanie Best.
I thought maybe somebody had like a really hot start to, like maybe Bree Javier or somebody had like a really hot start to a season.
No, Steph had it, but no longer because of Cody in this monster week, and she's obviously pushing. I mean, she's number 2 in the country right now in runs batted in, and that's not including the 2 ribbies she's got against Fresno. So I mean, she's been fantastic. She was the story. She willed that team. She really set the tone there, and that was important to go 4-1. You know, you would have liked to have gone 5-0, but you still get a split of South Carolina, so you get another SEC
with
win.
An SEC school. I'll take that.
That's 3 wins for them against an SEC teams that are likely to be tournament teams. You're talking obviously South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Georgia. So that's quality to add to the Texas win. So they're building a good resume. Their RPI, believe it or not, RPIs are already out. They were 19 on Monday. First RPI that's out. It's very early, but 19, that's a good start. And now they go on this West Coast trip. They beat Pacific, who you mentioned, which was kind of like the Brady versus Belichick of softball here. Cindy had not returned to Pacific in over a decade since they retired her number. She's facing her mentor, Brian Cozy. They did all these ceremony there. They honored her before the game, and then UCF just smacked them around, 8-0. So that was good. That was emotional. Obviously, they're hopefully take care of Fresno as we talk. Then they go to Longwood, Long Beach, Florida, Long Beach State, and Fullerton for a tournament where they're going to play Boston, which is an NCAA tournament team. They're going to play Long Beach State, which was an NCAA tournament team. They're going to play Nebraska in the Scott Frost Bowl there. and Iowa State, which is an NCAA tournament team, and Fullerton, who has been a perennial NCAA tournament team. So a tough 5-game stretch there in this weekend. People have asked me if they could go 4-3, 5-2 on this West Coast trip. I think it's a big success. And then when they come back, by the way, next Tuesday night, they got Ohio State, who might be ranked in the top 25 by the time they get to Florida. So
I was going to say that Ohio State game coming on the back end, and assuming now they've gone to the top of the 7th, it's still 7-2 UCF. I mean, you get these two against Pacific and Fresno, in the bag before the tournament. I think that's big.
It's a great start to the trip. Good bonding, good chemistry. Makes you feel comfortable, makes you feel loose there. So if they could get this sweep here of these two start in this road trip, it's big. And this is this is a young team too. And they're flying. I got to say, Kemal Woodall has been fantastic as a reliever and a starter. She's a weapon. She's one of those, Jeff, and I don't know, you can come up with a baseball version of this. It's that pitcher that can just throw every day in whatever role you want, as a starter or a closer. Like, I remember the Wayne Graham teams of Rice when they had Cole St. Clair, who was their closer, but he could also start. And I feel like Kemal Woodall is that for UCF.
Like John Smoltz.
Oh, Smoltzy. That's a good one. Johnny Smoltz. Same thing. Kemal Woodall has been a valuable addition to this staff because of her versatility. She could start, she can reclose every game. She has a rubber arm. And that's been huge for this team to help out Gianna Mancha and help out the young staff like Grace Jewell and Caitlin Felton, and helps them develop slowly, not force them into the fire. So I want to give a shout out to Woodall, who pitched a gem against Pacific and picked up a couple of wins in relief in that tournament last weekend, including that South Carolina win. So, so far so good. Cody's a beast, and we haven't even discussed Shannon Doherty because people are afraid to pitch to her. Jeff, they don't blame them.
Every time she hits the ball, she wins a game.
And she goes into social media, breaks social media.
Going into the Fresno game, she has a .353 batting average on the season so far with 51 at-bats. I mean, you talk about this pitching, but this offense is honestly really good. When you have Denali Shapacher hitting 281 there's still players hitting higher averages than her, that's how you know this offense is really, really good.
Agreed. And that's the thing they're starting to balance out now. You know what you're going to get from Cody and Doherty. Janisha Rowe had a good weekend as the leadoff hitter. Searcy's starting to come on. Remember, she hurt her ACL last year at East Carolina. Really, UCF was never the same. If Kennedy Searcy would have stayed healthy last year, I think they win the Tallahassee Regional. That's how important she was to that team last year. So now she's coming back healthy. You got young players like Savannah Adams. Maddie Bejarano has stepped up to hit with power. And Savannah Adams, I love her swing. And again, it's a young team. Half this team is very young. But this is a good start for them. And, it's important. Conference play starts in a few weeks. South Florida looks really good with Georgina Korick. So, we'll talk about that down the road. But it's been positive, man. And again, we spoke about the crowds at baseball. Softball's gotten great crowds too. They've had on pace to have great attendance all year long as far as record attendance. And it's really been awesome, guys, to see both baseball and softball supported here. And a salute to the fans of both sports fans and teams. And I think there's some crossover, but I think both teams have really benefited from that support, and hopefully that continues. And I think if both teams continue to win, that support will continue.
Now, Eric, I have a question here about the statistic that UCF softball right now is leading the country in, which is walks. Now, is that offensive walks or walks allowed?
Offensive walks. They're a patient team. They've walked over 10 times, like 3 times this year. Offensively, so they're very patient there. Of course, we had that Florida game where everybody walked because the umpire strike zone was small. But they're a patient team. They don't swing out of the strike zone. And that's kind of why these softball games take a little longer than they used to, because teams are now become more disciplined. They're more patient. They take pitches. That's part of Coach Ball Malone and Whitney Jones, who's the new hitting coach this year. Remember, she came on board from Washington because Coach Ball Malone now is really focused on the pitching staff and allows her to be in the bullpen more. They preach patience. They streak off. They also preach offensive efficiency, being efficient offensively. We hear that so much on football, right, Jeff, with possessions and how you're efficient offensively, even basketball. That applies to softball too. Be efficient when your runner's on. Make the most out of it. Put pressure on defenses. That's why they steal a ton of bases. I think they're in the top 10 in stolen bases. They draw a lot of walks, get on base, and that's mostly from their slap hitters to set the table. And again, Shannon Doherty's getting walked a lot. I mean, she's getting the Stephanie Best treatment, Jeff. Do you remember the joke I always said? The first game I ever saw was when Stephanie Best played. I never got to see her swing a bat because she walked every time.
Well, I mean, what you're saying checks out, because not only is UCF number one in walks drawn in the country, they're 19th in on-base percentage, 420. So that tells you exactly what they're able to do. That's
a fantastic number, by the way,
420. And I think actually this is pretty interesting. They are 16th in the country in doubles, which tells me that they're putting some pop on the ball. First of all, they may not be hitting home runs, but they're putting some pop on the ball, and their speed on the base paths.
Agreed.
So that's that, and now we double check.
They're up 10-2 now. We have been a positive spin to them since we've been on. They have exploded offensively.
So that we continue to in the top of the seventh over Fresno State. So so that brings us to track and field. Bryson Turner, who let me wrap softball real quick. After Fresno State, we were saying, Eric, they are set for I'm looking at the schedule right here.
And got Boston Friday.
When can we watch these games? Because I'm checking the schedule. Boston Friday.
Yep.
Iowa State and Fullerton Saturday doubleheader, and then Nebraska Long Beach State Sunday doubleheader. Can we watch these games anywhere?
Let's hope so. Good question.
I see two watch links for Fullerton and Long Beach.
The host teams. Those are the host teams. So those
not
games.
The Nebraska, Iowa State, or Boston games.
Yeah, that one's got me a little nervous. We may not have streams of that. My boy Kenny Landis, shout out. He's with the team, the SID. I will be bugging him about it. I'm sure he'll put that information out on social media because I will make sure.
Let's not bully Kenny into FaceTiming this thing, okay? Kenny's got some work to do here.
Well, he's a creative guy. He's taking photos out there. I mean.
It's not his responsibility to be single-handedly streaming these games himself. I will say that.
I concur on that.
Let's give Kenny a little bit of a break here, a well-deserved break. The Ohio State game will be on ESPN Plus.
By the way, Ashley Griffin, I just want to give a shout out because she just drove in the 2 runs to make it 10-2. She hit the walk-off base hit in the South Carolina win on Saturday. That was significant because they pitched around Cody and Doherty to get to her. She's off to a slow start, highly touted catcher with tremendous power. Slow start because she's a freshman. That happens. That's a big hit there in that South Carolina game. Yeah. That could really turn her season around. It could be a turning point for her season. I remember Cassidy Brewer in 2016 hit 2 hits for the first month of her career. People wanted her bench. She hit a walk-off hit against Utah, and the rest was history.
That hit against Utah. That was
you were there, right? Were you doing PA for that?
Yeah, I was doing PA for that game. Yeah.
Yeah, that turned her career around. Ever since then, she went an all-conference performer. I think the same thing could happen to Ashley Griffin, and she's right now making me proven correct because she's having a good West Coast trip so far.
And that takes us to indoor track and field, which the NCAA championships are this weekend. Bryson Turner, and like we mentioned last week, we have 2 UCF Knights participating in the indoors, including Renaya Jones, who's in 2 events and has a shot, I think a legit shot, at winning a national championship. Now, the indoors are very much, it's just one event, right? It's not like the outdoors where you have the regionals that feed into the national championships, like a week-long thing. This is 2 days. But who are we following, and when and where can we follow them?
All right. So if you want to watch it live, it's going to be streamed on ESPN3 Live, which means that if you have a TV provider password, you can log into the ESPN app and watch it live. However, there will be a re-airing from what I saw before there on the website. There's going to be a re-airing of the whole thing on ESPNU at 9:30 p.m. on March 13th. So if you can't make it to see it live,
wow,
we gotta wait that long. Hey.
Well, that's when my guess is that they want to take the final into account is what my guess is. So it would be one day afterwards, because the first day of action is going to be the semifinal events on March 11th at 7:15. We kick it off with Renaya Jones in the 60-meter dash. Then directly afterward at 7:25, we will have Latasha Smith and the 400 meters. Then about half an hour later, Renaya Jones will be coming back for the 60-meter hurdles semifinal. Now,
those are the semifinals, and the finals are
the next day,
the following day, Saturday, right?
Yes, it'll be food for thought is that basically it's between 7:10 and 7:45 for all of the events on Saturday. I'll put a tweet out if they make it, and I'll let you know what time it is.
The preliminary schedule right now on Saturday for the finals, assuming everyone gets that far, 7:10 p.m. for the 60, 7:20 p.m. for the 400, 7:40 for the 60 hurdle, which is Renaya's main event.
Right. Right. If I would say that if there's anything that one of these girls is going to win, it's Renaya and the 60-meter hurdle, because hurdling is really her bread and butter. She's getting better at sprinting, but hurdling is her bread and butter. And I think if we're going to see a UCF national champion, it's going to be her in that event.
All right. So we'll be keeping a very
that's 9:30 Sunday night on ESPNU. Will air that. That's wow. First of all, this is like retro back to television days of, hey, let's just air tape delay program.
This is like the old Olympics, right?
Right? It's just
like on the wide world of sports.
Dick Embersall would be proud here. But think about this potential on this Sunday, right? I mean, Fred, you could watch Renaya Jones potentially win and UCF win Saturday night at 9:30, right after we find out what the women's basketball seed and where they're going in the NCAA tournament. That sets up to be a heck of a Sunday of UCF programming there, potentially from about 8 o'clock to about midnight.
This is March, right? This is the equinox. It's happening right now.
I just DVR'd it. Because I'm going to forget. But thank you, Bryson. I'm going to DVR it. I'm still going to, now I'll still look for the results. So I will check the results on Banneret, Black Gold Banneret. I expect you, Bryson, to give us the results and updates, but I will watch. Unless we somehow don't do well, then I'll delete.
Well, Friday,
they're going to the bottom of the 7th as we speak right now. It's 10-2 UCF leading Fresno. So
Friday, if I remember correctly,
to finish it off.
Is men's basketball playing on Friday night?
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. Fingers crossed they do.
If they are, they're playing in the semis.
Yes.
Well, no, they're playing Memphis in the quarters.
Quarters. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if they win again Thursday, and again, you're probably listening to this on Thursday as this is up on Thursday morning. Like you said, we'll be following that doubleheader, that Warren I-4 doubleheader in hoops. The men at 7 in the first round of the American Men's Championship, followed by the women facing USF in the championship game, approximately 9 p.m. Eastern time. We will be following that. Myself, Kyle Nash joined us earlier, the SOTG on Twitter, Jeff_Sharon on Twitter. You can follow us. Also follow UCF Banneret _SBN on Twitter for all the latest, and follow Bryson. It's Bryson Turner on Twitter, and Eric, of course, is at Eric Lopez Elo. If you do not subscribe to our podcast, make sure you do. We're on Apple as well as Android, whatever platform you wish. If you do, let us know how we're doing. Give us a rating on whatever platform you listen to your podcasts on. It's another busy weekend. I mean, now the weekends are like long. Now it just all goes together. Like we had basketball on Tuesday. We got basketball on Wednesday. We got basketball on Thursday. Hopefully we have basketball on Friday. We have track and field on Friday. We got baseball on Friday. We got softball Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We got baseball Friday, Saturday. It's it's crazy now, man. It's unbelievable.
It's incredible, man, but it's a good time. It's a fun time of year. And again, great years. And obviously Jeff, give that stat again. Diamond Battles, who won Player of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year. You had the stat. Who was the last UCF basketball player to do that?
Last UCF women's basketball player to win Player of the Year in a conference postseason Player of the Year, Sharia Davis, 1999. And that was also happened to be the last year that UCF pulled off the double.
Oh, see, full circle.
Spooky. Lynn Bria, who's now the head coach at Stetson, was the head coach at UCF at the time. And that was her last season at UCF before she gave way to Gail Striegler, who was the last UCF coach to lead UCF to a regular season title. So everything's coming back. It's all coming back. All right. So it'll be a big weekend. That's and as we wrap up, let's see here. What is it? They still haven't recorded any outs yet. Come on. Oh, DeVoe is out there now. Eric.
Angelina DeVoe. They just started the bottom of the 7th. That is correct.
All right. So we'll be finishing that up. And of course, you can follow our Twitter feeds for the latest on that. So once again, so for the student of the game, Kyle Nash, for Bryson Turner, for Eric Lopez, I'm Jeff Sharon saying thank you so much for listening. This has been the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Enjoy this busy weekend. Follow us for all the latest. And we will be catching up with you on social media, at least at some point, and certainly on blackandgoldbanneret.com as we move through this busy weekend of basketball, baseball, softball, and track. Enjoy the weekend, folks. We'll catch you wherever we can here on Black and Gold Banneret.